So today, we're diving into Karma Yoga, this amazing philosophy of action from the Bhagavad Gita. And honestly, it tackles a question that I think we all wrestle with, right? In a world that's constantly pulling you in a million directions, how do you even begin to find a spiritual path? I mean, do you have to drop everything and escape to a mountaintop? Or is it possible to find that sense of freedom right here, in the middle of our everyday lives? Well, let's find out.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big crisis that kicks this whole conversation off. Then we'll look at the two different spiritual paths that get laid out and, get this, why just checking out isn't really an option. And then we'll get to the good stuff, the core solution. We're talking about a totally new way to think about action, how to spot our real inner enemy, and, of course, the battle plan to actually win.
So, picture this. Our story kicks off on a battlefield. You've got this legendary warrior, Arjuna, and he's about to face the fight of his life. But here's the twist. His real crisis isn't the army standing in front of him. Nope. It's the battle raging inside his own head. He's just completely paralyzed by the idea of having to fight his own family, his own teachers. It's a total meltdown. And so he turns to his guide, Krishna, and asks this question that I think so many of us can relate to. He's basically saying, look, if intelligence and knowledge are the ultimate goals, then why in the world are you telling me to get my hands dirty in this awful war? Shouldn't I just walk away from all this mess and go find a cave to meditate in? You see? He's hitting on that classic idea that to be spiritual, you have to completely detach from the real world.
But Krishna's answer is, well, it's brilliant. He doesn't just give him a simple yes or no. Instead, he kind of blows up Arjuna's whole way of thinking. He shows him that his basic assumption that there's only one way to be spiritual is just plain wrong. There's more than one path to the top of the mountain.
So Krishna lays out these two different paths. On one hand, you've got the thinkers, right? The Sankhya yogis. These are the folks who renounce the world to go deep into philosophical study. But on the other hand, you've got the doers, the karma yogis. They find their enlightenment through their work by doing what needs to be done without getting all caught up in the results. And here's the real kicker. These two paths aren't enemies. They actually need each other. I mean, what good is a bunch of philosophy if you don't do anything with it? And action without any guiding wisdom, that can be a recipe for disaster.
And that brings us to what might be Krishna's most mind-bending point. He's about to totally flip the script on Arjuna's whole dilemma by basically saying that the choice to do nothing, well, it's not a real choice at all. It's an illusion.
I mean, just listen to this. He says that not a single one of us can stop from doing something, not even for a second. It's a pretty bold claim, right? He's saying that our very nature, the fact that we're alive, forces us to act. The whole idea of just stopping, it's impossible. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. We're always being pushed around by these basic, fundamental forces. You know, your stomach rumbles and you have to get food. Your body gets tired and you have to sleep. Your mind wants to be noticed, to achieve something. So if we're basically hardwired to always be doing something, then the real question isn't if we should act, but how we should act. That changes everything.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of karma yoga. Krishna offers this completely game-changing way to look at work, at duty, at life itself. It's not about running away from your responsibilities. It's about changing your entire mindset while you're doing them.
The key idea here is a word, yaja. It translates to sacrifice. But hold on, we're not talking about some ancient ritual. In this context, it means doing your work for a purpose that's bigger than just you. It's about dedicating your actions to a higher good and letting go of the obsession with what you'll get out of it. You know, the money, the fame, the power.
So here's the main principle boiled down. It's not the action that gets you into trouble. It's not the work itself that binds you. It's your selfish attachment to the results of that work. But if you can perform that same work as a sacrifice for a higher purpose, that very same action sets you free. So Arjuna can fight this war. If he does it as his duty, not for his own glory, the act of fighting can actually become his path to liberation. How amazing is that?
Okay, so this all sounds fantastic in theory, doesn't it? But Arjuna, being the practical guy he is, asks the perfect follow-up question. He's like, okay, Krishna, I get it, but if the answer is so simple, why is it so ridiculously hard for us to do anything without our selfish desires getting in the way?
He really wants to know what this powerful force is inside us that just seems to take over, even when we have the best intentions. You know that feeling, right? You know you shouldn't do something, you might not even want to do it, but it feels like some invisible force is just pushing you to do it anyway. What is that?
Krishna's answer is incredibly direct, almost shockingly so. He says, "It is lust only, Arjuna." Now, it's super important we understand what he means by lust here. It's not just about physical desire. In this philosophy, lust is any selfish craving for your own personal enjoyment that's totally disconnected from a higher purpose. It's that relentless, nagging need for more fame, more money, more pleasure. It's that voice in your head that's always screaming, me, me, me.
So, where does this enemy set up camp? Krishna basically gives Arjuna the enemy's coordinates. He says it hides out in our senses, which are always looking for the next hit of stimulation. It hangs out in our mind, which just loves to obsess over those cravings. And this is the really scary part, it even infiltrates our intelligence, clouding our judgment so we can't tell right from wrong anymore.
Okay, so if our senses are compromised, our mind is compromised, and even our intelligence is compromised, how in the world are we supposed to fight back? It sounds kind of hopeless, right? Well, this is where Krishna lays out the ultimate battle plan. See, Krishna reveals there's a clear hierarchy, a chain of command, inside every one of us. Yet the senses are strong, but the mind is higher than the senses. And our intelligence? That's higher than the mind. But what's at the very top? What's even higher than our intelligence? The soul. Our true higher self. And the strategy is simple. You have to take control from the very top.
The big takeaway here is that you can't win this fight down in the trenches. You can't just use your mind to try and control your mind. That's a losing battle. You have to go higher. By connecting with that higher self, with the soul, you get the spiritual strength you need to command your intelligence. And once your intelligence is on your side, it can direct the mind, and the mind can finally get the senses in line. It's about winning the war by starting at the very top, from a place of real spiritual power.
And that right there is the timeless genius of karma yoga. Look, we all have our own version of that ghastly warfare, don't we? It might be in our job, in our family, or just in the quiet struggles inside our own head. The message of the Gita is so powerful because it tells us we don't have to run away from these fights. In fact, we can turn them into the very path that sets us free, just by changing the reason why we're fighting in the first place. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's your battlefield? And how can you step onto it, not for yourself, but as a kind of selfless sacrifice?